In this episode, we interview Colin Higgins and his love for the Montreal Canadiens. We also welcome Craig Merz and Mitch Stacy to talk all things Columbus Blue Jackets. We also discuss who could sneak into the NHL playoffs for each division. Hit the music. Welcome to Jablam Sports Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Borjaranov, and the mic is always on. You can find me on Twitter at Russia98. You can find the full show at Jablam Sports. If you have any questions or comments, please tweet us. Use the hashtag Jablam Sports. That's JABLAM Sports. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet, and click on the three dots in your podcasting app. Share our show with three hockey fans you know. Thank you, everyone. Remember, check out our website, go to jablamsports.com, see all our podcasts, and even game notes for each episode. You'll get links to all the things we mentioned on the show, including guests. For our podcasts, click on podcasts, and then hockey on this show specifically right on our website. Time for this week's Trending Now. Joining me on the show for Trending Now is Craig Merz. He covers the Columbus Blue Jackets for NHL.com, as well as the Ohio State Buckeyes hockey team. You can find him on Twitter at ICER12. That's ICER12. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Glad to be on with you today.
All right, there's so much we can talk about. Different players getting injured, and the list goes on. But specifically with injuries, and I want people to discuss this. And again, if people on social media want to, you can go to Jablam Sports on social media, especially Twitter, and of course me directly at Russia98. But I want to know, I think fans and media think that teams are circumventing the cap and holding out players intentionally until playoffs begin. We've seen recently with the Leafs, Freddie Anderson, of course, he looks like he's kind of ready, but they're possibly holding him out till the playoffs. We've can go on time and time about the whole Tampa Bay Lightning and Nikita Kucherov and him coming back on the ice already a month or two ago. And now with the Winnipeg Jets, we see Nick Ehlers, who finished the game. He looked fine, but they're holding him out to the playoffs as well. Craig, do you think teams are kind of cheating here?
They would probably call it maybe game management, sort of like what the NBA is doing nowadays. But yeah, I think you can look at it that way, that if they can find a way to get players into the lineup without getting over the salary cap. And we saw that with Montreal, the way they couldn't get Cole Caulfield into the game just because they were over the salary cap until they made a couple of moves. I mean, that's the new NHL. You have to be very smart with your money and your value of players. And so I think you're going to see this as a trend that, though they probably won't admit it, the teams won't admit it, that's exactly what they're doing. They're finding ways to put players on the IR or injured list, not activating them so they can have more salary cap space.
Yeah, I'm surprised other teams haven't kind of done that in recent years. And if we go to Chicago, maybe Patrick Kane and the Blackhawks did that in the past.
That's a possibility. I know, sometimes they're legitimate. I mean, Columbus Blue Jackets have Brandon Dubinsky on the board for about 3 years now since he's last played a game. I guess it's 2 years since he last played a game because of wrist injury, a legitimate wrist injury. But, that was money that finally they were able to move off and make some salary cap space with. So some cases it's true, some cases it's not. And if you're a GM, you can finagle this way around it. Good for you. That's your job. You're supposed to help the team the best way you can. And if you can find a way, if there's a loophole, then go ahead and take it. I don't have any problem with it.
If you're not cheating, are you even trying?
Yeah, that's always the question. I know it was, lose if you can, win if you must, but always cheat. I mean, that was something I heard watching big time wrestling one time, and somebody said that. I think it was Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Oh, of course. And we all know the late Eddie Guerrero lying, stealing, and cheating. So he was fabulous at that.
There's no cheating in the NHL. Come on.
Oh, there's no such thing.
No.
All right. So going back to Chicago, Andrew Shaw has announced his retirement on Monday for professional hockey. Drafted in the 5th round by the Chicago Blackhawks in 2011, he played 544 games, 116 goals, 131 assists for 247 points, and of course, more penalty minutes than games played. And of course, after receiving another concussion on February 9th versus Dallas Stars, he's been out since then. So he's announced his retirement on Monday.
Yeah, and the sad thing for any athlete who has to end a career, it's not really on their terms. And that's the sad part about it, is that a medical decision, sometimes it's a financial decision that teams let a guy go and they think he's not worth the value anymore. But that's sad for him. He's had a great career. I know he's not thought very highly in Columbus. He had a hit on a blindside hit on Adam McQuaid 3 years ago, I believe it was. The Blue Jackets just acquired Adam, and that ended his career because of a concussion, and he got away without a penalty on it. So he was not a fan favorite in Columbus, but obviously beloved in Chicago for his grit, his determination, his guy coming into the lineup who maybe people thought shouldn't even be in the NHL at times, and then he fought his way in literally, and had a great career for them and helped them win some cups.
Yeah, I'll always kind of remember him for his tenacity and his energy. You mentioned the Cups, and he played 7 years with the Blackhawks, 3 years with Montreal. The thing I remember him the most is when he won the Cup, again, with his energy and everything, he let a number of F-bombs go. And we've seen it sometimes, but it just seemed with his excitement and thrill of winning it, and it's just them letting it go live. And all the broadcasters kind of just let it go. And he let a lot of F-bombs go. So great career. Enjoy your retirement, Andrew, if you can.
Well, I'll tell you what, he absolutely must be the first NHL player to drop an F-bomb on TV, because I've never heard him before.
Yeah. So with less than 2 weeks remaining in the NHL season, let's look at who's in and which teams are out, and who do you think we're going to figure out who we think can still maybe sneak in. We'll get to the North last, but let's start off first with the Honda West. We've got Vegas and Colorado 1 and 2. Minnesota has qualified for the 3rd spot as well, but in that final spot currently is the St. Louis Blues, with the Arizona Coyotes in 5th. Just 1 point out, but 3 games remaining less. Do you think the Blues have this totally, Craig?
I think Bennington, if he can start playing to the capabilities that he has, he had a great save the other night. One of these highlight saves, I think they've got a possibility. I will go with the Blues in that situation. They have the experience, and that's the one thing. They know what it is to win a cup. I know there's a few players gone from that team, but still, the core is there that won a Stanley Cup 2 years ago. So I would go with the St. Louis Blues. Great effort by Arizona this year, but again, this is a team, a franchise in the offseason that's going to have to make some moves and decide what direction they want to go, if they want to keep fighting for that playoff spot, or maybe take a step back and reorganize, reload again.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I told my buddy who's a Blues fan, Jason, if you're listening, the Blues are going to make it. I told him a month ago, and he was shaking in his boots. I still think it, and you could see with the experience, like you mentioned, they're pouring it on now. They took out Colorado Monday night, so they did fairly well there. But that defense still looks pretty thin. So I was like, wow, really? Is that their defense right now? So hopefully they get some healthy guys back.
Yeah, and if you have a high goalie, which they've had in the past, like we said with the Stanley Cup before, a high goalie can make up for a lot of glaring errors on the defense.
In the Discovery Central, I love doing the brand names. I just love doing it. We have Carolina as the playoff lock, and then Florida doing well this year, and Tampa are right behind them. 10 points behind are the Nashville Predators in that last playoff spot, but the Dallas Stars are just 2 points behind with 2 games in hand. Who's going to take that 4th spot, Craig?
I can guarantee you it won't be the Blue Jackets. So,
yeah,
that's all I know. No, maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I probably would have picked Dallas, just because they had, at that point, maybe 4 or 5 games in hand on team. And even though we're maybe 8 points back, you said, well, as soon as they make up those games, they can do it. But like you said, just 2 games in hand, and Nashville just been playing great. Now they get the Blue Jackets for 2 games next week in Columbus. That'll be a big series for Nashville, and they've done very well against the Blue Jackets this season, taking all 4 in Nashville this year. So, that's a series that Nashville's looking at to get all the points out of. So I'm going to go with Nashville.
I'm really on the fence with this. I know we had Bruce on the show, Bruce Laine on the show, and we talked about how the Stars are so compressed with them being out with COVID and everything. Their season is so compressed, and a lot of the teams, when they come back, they've looked okay, but then with such a compressed schedule and not everybody's 100%, it's hard. It's really hard for them to keep focus and winning those games. So I'm still 50-50. I still think Dallas might actually come back and win this and steal that last spot, but it's going to be a tough go. And hey, Tyler Seguin is practicing, so it's possible he could be back.
Yeah, and you talked about their schedule and playing so many games that may, obviously they're going to be fatigued, but that may work in their favor, that if you get on a roll, you want to play every night. And now they're almost doing that right now, but every other night they're playing a game, and sometimes back to back. So if you start winning and just keep it on a roll like that, they may be able to pull ahead of Nashville at the end.
Now in the Mass Mutual East, Pittsburgh has surprised, and they're currently leading the group. Washington's right behind. New York Islanders are in third, and Boston is currently in fourth, with the New York Rangers 4 points behind for that last spot. If you put a percentage, if you put a number on it, what would you give the Rangers of catching the Bruins?
I will go 42%. I'm going to go that high.
Ooh, all right. I was going with about only like
I think that's wishful thinking, but
go ahead. Why is your reasoning that high for the Rangers?
Personally, I like to see Panarin in the playoffs again. Just with his time in comes, I like to see what he could do to carry that team, and they have some great young players. So that's my reasoning on that. But, I've just been disappointed in Boston. I know Boston's had a lot of injuries this year. I've just been disappointed in Boston. I keep thinking, the true Bruins are going to come through at the end. It hasn't really happened yet. So that's why I'm letting the Rangers hang around. That's why I give them the 42% chance of making it.
Wow. I have them only not even like 18% I would go with for the Rangers. Then we go up to the Scotia North. Toronto has a solid lead for first. Edmonton and Winnipeg are flipping between that second and third. But Montreal has that fourth spot. They had a huge lead a few weeks ago, but they've fallen here. The Canadiens are now still 6 points ahead of the Flames. Big win on Monday. Huge win. Will Montreal kind of keep falling and let the Flames slip in?
I think that win on Monday really may be the difference maker when it comes down to the end. I think it's going to come down to 1 or 2 points, and that that 4-point game there, that really makes a difference. And I think Montreal's going to hold on to it at the end. We'll see, but I like Calgary to get into it. I'm pulling for them because I know Brad Treliving, the GM, he was here in Columbus playing with the Columbus Chills in the East Coast Hockey League. So, I got to root for that guy and their team, but I'm going to go with Montreal.
I really was hoping the Flames could come back. It just because they started playing a little bit better. With Sutter back and everything, you kind of have them working a little bit differently. But damn, I still think the Canadiens have that loss on Monday. And the Flames beat Montreal recently back-to-back, and I thought they had the edge on them. And that was a big game, so I'm giving the slight edge to Montreal. Yeah, but that was a big win on Monday. Yeah,
that's one of those character wins where, like you said, you lost 2 in a row to the Flames, and you've got to come out. They're on your tail, and they put it to them and got the big win that they needed to. That's a good sign for the Canadiens.
Let's get to this week's Team ISO. We are Team ISOing the Columbus Blue Jackets, so we head to the C-Bus. Welcome to the show now, Mitch Stacy. You can find him on Twitter at Mitch Stacy. He's with the Associated Press. Thanks for stopping by, Mitch.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And, of course, we still have Craig Merz on the show. And if you want to follow him on Twitter, that's at Icer12. So it's been a wild year in Columbus. But considering how wild and weird it's been, I don't know. From a guy outside looking in, I don't recall seeing Coach John Tortorella having one of his usual flip out events.
If you're talking about a big major blow up, I don't know that there has been one, but if you're talking about maybe a 50-second post-game press conference, yes, there's been a few of those along the way. Absolutely.
Yes, those ones we are used to. So now with this season. Mitch, it's been tough. It's been a tough year for all of us, but maybe tougher for Jarmo Kekalainen and the team. What went wrong, if you can pinpoint it on one or two things?
Probably not pinpointing it on one or two things. It's a many-pronged answer, I think. We still had the COVID issues washing over into the season. There was early season discord with Pierre-Luc Dubois that ended up in his trade for Patrik Laine. There were injuries. There were more talk about this narrative of nobody wants to play in Columbus, and what do we have to do to lock these guys up? And but with all that, they were hanging in there within a couple points of the fourth playoff spot until what, Craig? The Detroit series in late March. They really had a chance to make a move, and they lost a weekend series to Detroit, and the wheels fell off then. And that, of course, led to the kind of the sell-off at the trade deadline, and then there were some other injuries, and it's just a perfect storm of bad things.
Yeah. And then after the Detroit series, they righted it for a couple. They actually played well against Tampa, and they went down there and played a few games. But then you had Werenski went out, then Riley Nash went out, and then Boone Jenner went out, and then Nash got traded, and then Foligno got traded, and Savard got traded. And, there's your grit, your core of your team, the culture, as you will. A lot of that was gutted from the team. You're bringing up a bunch of young players who frankly, don't wow anybody at the moment. Some of them may be good 2 or 3 years down the road, but they got a lot of third and fourth liners out there playing on the second line and third line and, top 5D for them. And it's just not working out right now. They try to reload, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, reboot. But they just struggled the last part of the season. They've won 2 out of the last 17 games. So it's been ugly.
And I particularly think that trading Nick Foligno at the deadline was not just, getting rid of a player in his early 30s, at the end of a contract that's expiring. He was really the moral center, for lack of a better word, to be trite about it, the soul of the team. And he kind of kept it together in the room, and I think he was a good liaison between Torts and the other players, particularly some of the younger ones. And him being traded was just a huge loss for them. Not to mention Savard, who was also one of the longest tenured guys and beloved in the locker room and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, because when they traded Savard a couple of days before Foligno, that signaled the season's over with. I mean, they were still maybe 5 points out of the playoffs at that time, but the season was done. They said, you know what, we can't win. We can't make the playoffs. And frankly, if they made the playoffs, they weren't going to do anything anyway. So, but that signal, when they did those trades there, they said, we're done this year. Let's bring up the young kids and see what we can do the rest of the way.
In our special episode 4 of season 6, the beginning of the season, our Discovery NHL Central Division preview. And again, you can check that wherever you get your podcasts or on Spotify, of course. We had 8 great guests, one for every team, and they all had the Blue Jackets pegged for 4th or 5th. It's been really tough for GM Jarmo Kekalainen. How do you see him now handling this offseason?
Well, I'll start for, I think the number one priority is signing Seth Jones. They can start offering again this summer. He's got another year on his contract. If they don't re-sign him or get an extension for him, then all bets are off on where this franchise goes. He's now the core of the franchise. If he signs on, he will be the next captain of the Blue Jackets.
And it's important for them to sign him, not only because he's the best player, but to show the younger players that the organization wants to win and is willing to pay people and is willing to, make a foundation for the future to win in Columbus. If they let him go, I believe it would be devastating for the culture. They're probably going to be rebuilding with a new coach next year. And if they don't get Seth Jones locked up and this drags out like it did with Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky a couple years ago, I think it's going to be very damaging to this team, as Craig said.
Yeah, and they've always prided themselves on going through adversity with the Bob and Brett 2 years ago, and they still made the playoffs. That won't happen this time around. It's just the culture isn't there now that if Seth Jones has got a contract hanging over his head by the time next season starts, if he's still in Columbus at that point, if he doesn't have a new deal done, this team will not respond in a positive way whatsoever.
Mitch, you stated already there about the coach, Tortorella. Is he all but done this offseason?
Well, the fact that neither he nor the team has said boo about a new contract likely indicates that he's not going to be back. Nobody knows for sure, but he's been there 6 years. The average of an NHL coach is 3 to 4. It would not be shocking to see him move on.
And he might be ready to move on as well. I mean, they put a lot on his plate in terms of every year the Blue Jackets pride themselves on being, quote unquote, the youngest team in the league or one of the youngest teams in the league. So, he's had to develop players, and he does that. I know there's a reputation about him, but he has developed young players. But at some point, these young players have to be combined with some very good veteran players, and you get by, past the first round of the playoffs. They've only done once in their history. And so, for 6 years in a row, he's had young teams and some of the cheaper teams in the league. And so he may be ready to move on as well. He's not done coaching, though. I don't believe that.
Yeah, he hasn't had an elite scoring sniper since Panarin, really. You agree with that, Craig?
Let's not talk about centers or the lack thereof. Centers, right. Number one centers. Ugh. Yeah. So they said to put piecemeal this team together this year, and it's been ugly.
All right, so let's jump right into that. I'm attacking you guys now. You're struggling with your centers. You're struggling with you haven't seen a sniper in a while. So let's hit hard and hit at those two players right there. Number one, Patrik Laine. Some people consider him a superstar sniper. Does he just not fit in Columbus? Does he not fit under Tortorella? He's an RFA this offseason. Is he going to stay, or are they going to consider maybe moving him?
That's priority number 2 after Seth Jones, to decide what to do with him, whether to keep him here or not. I've been very disappointed in his play. I mean, I know Paul Maurice wanted to make him into a 200-foot player. Torch wants to make him into a 200-foot player. But, my God, I've never seen anybody softer on a puck for a man that big. And maybe that's not the way he's played. And the difference between him and Panarin is Panarin always wanted the puck. And if he didn't have it, he'd find a way to get it. Laine, from what I've seen, if he doesn't have the puck, he's not going after it. And B, if there's somebody there, he's giving it up. He's just not been strong at all this year for him. I know some people say, well, his skating style looks like he's lackadaisical and doesn't care. I believe he cares, but I just think he's just not been able to really get his game going this year. And I think he's been chafed by Tortorella so much that maybe he's tuned him out a bit.
I agree. Torts benched him very soon after he got here for lack of effort on a couple of different plays. And I just don't know if they got off on the right foot. And maybe under a new coach, he'll improve. Hard to tell. But I agree with Craig. He was the trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Blue Jackets were supposed to be getting a scoring stud, and he hasn't lived up to that. And he's been one of the many disappointments for this team this year, for sure.
I'll say a little in his defense, since he doesn't play a whole lot of it. He didn't have the players around him either. And that's the biggest problem. As we mentioned, at number one center, he needs guys to set him up. And the Blue Jackets, if anybody can watch them, they're sorely lacking in quality offensive talent out there. So that's one of the reasons he hasn't been able to score a lot of goals. They don't have any setup people for him. And I think that's frustrated him a lot, and it's been affected by his overall game.
So you guys are telling me that Patrik Laine is Phil Kessel 2.0, and you need to get him in either a Malkin or a Crosby.
Yeah, if they could do that, that'd be really good. Other than that, we'll see what happens. But yeah, he needs some help.
Kekalainen's recent moves, you can see a lot of people haven't liked them, so that's one of them. The other one, if you go to, that's the Josh Anderson for Max Domi trade, and he's been put into that center role. What looks like has been maybe Domi's worst season of his career. How are they going to move forward with Max?
Not as a center, right, Craig?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He likes center. He shows things there at points. I'm wishy-washy on Max. I mean, he started off very poorly this year. I see something there. He's tried. He's really tried to fit into the system here. I think he's improved his defensive play and his overall game. He's made some nice passes this year. He had the incident a couple games, a couple of weeks ago where he got back-to-back, 10-minute misconduct penalties in games, and then got benched for 2 games. That kind of stuff has got to end. But I think he can have settled in next year, get through this season. I think he can be productive for them next year. Maybe not back to the 70-plus points he had with Montreal, because he may not have the guys around him. But I think if he can play center and out there a lot, I think he can get back into the 60, 65-point range for him next season. I think Max can do well. Again, maybe it's a different coach. He can do even better and blossom. But I kind of like Max. I hope he does well, because I think he cares. I think he's trying out there, and sometimes it just doesn't pay off for him.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets are going to have some help for he or Laine to thrive. They just need some guys around them that they just don't have right now.
A player who's played fairly well this year, and they've locked him up, that's Oliver Bjorkstrand. He's had a pretty good year, and they lock him up for the 5 years at $5.4 million. How has his game improved, Mitch?
One of the few bright spots, I think, he has been the best at generating offense in times when the Blue Jackets just aren't doing it. You can look at their shot counts, and you can tell Bjorkstrand has been getting to the goal, and he generates a lot of chances. And I think that his game has improved there for sure.
Ironically, Torts this morning was asked about Bjorkstrand and said he was not really happy with his play, because he thinks he has another level that he hasn't gotten to yet. And he thinks, and Torts has been pushing him for years. He thinks there's more. He can get back to that 30, 35, and a full 82-game season, 35 goals a season for him. And he doesn't think he's at that level yet, playing this year at that level. So, but one thing about Bjorkstrand is it took him about 3 years at the NHL level to develop. And that's the one thing that maybe Blue Jacket fans can hold hope for with a guy like Emil Bemstrom. He so far has been a bust for him. They talked about this great kid coming in, going to score a lot of points. He's done nothing for him. Alexander Texier has fallen off the map a little bit, 21 years old only. So Bjorkstrand really didn't start to develop until his 3rd year in the league. So there's hope there. And that's what they hope, that maybe some of those other players can become like a Bjorkstrand who's given 3-4 years and suddenly becomes a good NHL player.
In net, they have 2 solid goaltenders with Elvis Merzlikins, and he's looked much better so for this season, at least, than Joonas Korpisalo. They both have 1 year remaining on their contracts. Where do you see it going past that season, Craig?
Well, first of all, Joonas is now out for the season. They shut him down after the injury in Tampa, so it's going to be Elvis and Matisse Klebinieks. I hope I got that right. At the end there. One of the two is going to be traded here at some point. After next season, only one of them will be here for sure. Before next season, one of them may be traded in the offseason. They were never hotter than after last season when Elvis won Rookie of the Year and Korpisalo had that great playoff series against Tampa Bay and the 85 save game for him. So their value probably has gone down a little bit. There could be a glut of goalies out there, but I think one of them may go this summer. Elvis will not be happy sharing time anymore. He's made that clear. Korpisalo is more quiet about it, but he's still got to drive too. He wants to be number one. I don't think he can go another season with this time-sharing method that they have. So I expect one of them may get moved this summer.
After, speaking about those two goaltenders and maybe the future of their goaltending, they just brought over, and that's Daniil Tarasov from the KHL, who's had fantastic numbers for Salavat as a backup there. One coach in the KHL, I think, compared him to Tampa's Andrei Vasilevsky, saying similar size and skill, but doesn't have the same natural explosiveness as him. He's also been compared to Pekka Rinne because of his 6'5" frame. So is he the next big thing, and can we see him soon?
We may see him in the final 6 or so games this year, possibly. It depends on what Jarmo wants to do, whether he wants to see him play a game or not. And Torts addressed that today, so it's really Jarmo's and the other scouting staff's decision on whether we see him play this year. But yeah, he's going to really maybe push that. If Elvis and Korpisalo are back next season and they see Tarasov in the AHL doing really, really well, it makes it a lot easier to trade one of them. He may end up 2 years from now, we may be talking about him as the number one goalie for the Blue Jackets. Who knows? He could have that potential for him. So, yeah, he's going to be a driving force there on what happens with the Blue Jackets between their 1 and 2 goalies. I mean, it's a great situation to have that potentially you have 3 very good goalies, and one of them, or maybe even 2 of them, will have to battle it out for the number 1 spot over the next 2 years. But I think, yeah, he definitely is in the Blue Jackets' plans.
All right, and then the other 2 prospects that have taken the step and they're on the roster now, and that's Liam Foudy and Andrew Peak on the blue line. They've seen a fair bit of games this season. What do you like about their games so far?
Foudy's just got a tremendous first step. That's his speed. He's learning how to play the game at a higher level in terms of he's been on a penalty kill now, helping out in that regards. And he's fearless. Even last year as a rookie in the playoffs, he played against Toronto, scored a goal. He didn't seem out of place there. He just needs a little more seasoning. Tonight he's going to play on a line with Roslovic and Laine at the start of the game. On probably their number 1 line. I guess you could call it that if you want to call it a top line for the Blue Jackets. So he's going to get a chance up there. And that's where he should be. In Cleveland, he's playing in a top 6 role. And a lot of times you get players from the minor leagues that come up and they're playing on a 3-4 and they're getting 8 minutes a game. For a scorer like that, a player like that with that offensive ability, that doesn't do him much good. Nothing's at stake for the Blue Jackets the rest of the year. Tortorella mentioned they're irrelevant. They are. So why not give him a chance the last 6 games of the year to be in the top 6 and see what he can do this year and build for next year?
Again, you can find them on Twitter at Icer12 for Craig and at Mitch Stacy for Mitch. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Joining to talk to me today is from Team Canada's men's national wheelchair basketball team, Colin Higgins. You can reach him on Instagram at CHiggins146. That's CHIGGINS146. Colin, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries.
So it's been a long, tough off season. I know with everybody dealing with the pandemic. We talked just briefly beforehand. You've been dealing with a lot of Zooms and stuff. I want to touch base with that. We've already talked to Coach Mateo about how you guys are training and functioning and using technology such as Zoom. How is that process going?
Yeah, it's been different as the whole world has been going through a very different time the last 12 months, but we're making the best of it. So we kind of most of us are in Canada, but there are a couple stateside at the moment. So we kind of gather, I don't know, probably once a week or every other week, and have Zoom sessions, go over countries that we're going to be playing against, hopefully in the Tokyo 2021 Paralympics here in a couple months. So that's a little different. We usually get together over the summer months and train together leading up to our what would be our competition at the end of the summer. So scratch that, and it's just been very different, but luckily we've gotten an exemption from the government that's allowed us to get 2 COVID tests a week and continue training at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Center on Morningside in 401 there, that was built for the Pan Am Games there in 2015. So it's a little different. We're only allowed to do like 3-on-3 instead of 5-on-5, and we got to wash the balls and all those different things. But we're making the most of it, and hopefully we can play some games here in a bit. It'd be nice. So
yeah, when you're doing the training and you need some bit of coaching, how has that worked? Has it been showing footage of yourself over Zoom or with coach, or and how is that working?
Well, yeah, so our head coach, Matteo, is with us every day in Toronto. So
Okay.
we were able to have that back and forth almost like normal. He struggles to hear, and it's his second language. So the mask barrier sometimes is a little difficult. He really takes advantage of being able to read people's lips. But with our 2 assistant coaches, they're in Quebec and Manitoba. So yeah, it's been different, but just being able to have the exemption, Mateo's there every day with us. So it hasn't changed it that much, I guess, is the short answer.
Mm-hmm. I noticed on your Instagram, I believe, were you in New Brunswick in the off season?
Yeah, so I'm an East Coaster.
Mm-hmm.
I was down at school in Missouri. That's where I go to school, and I train during normal times. And when the pandemic hit there last March, packed up and drove home to New Brunswick, and that's where I spent my time until the end of August, where it was, well, okay, we need to start training again. We can't do this forever, and some of our exemptions came in and whatever. I've kind of been here since. I went home for about a month there over Christmas, just to break things up and do the 14-day quarantine. But I'm back here in Toronto for the next while anyway. So.
I noticed, were you using gardening as a tool for training over there?
It was just nice to get out and do something a little different with my mom. I'm not that was my first real gardening experience. But a little different, but it's just something nice to be outside and kind of, especially the first couple months there where it was just so much uncertainty. It was just nice to do something that was not on a screen and take your mind away from it.
I noticed you loved basketball and hockey as a kid. I myself love hockey, and of course for our people listening to the podcast, they love hockey as well. Was there a certain team or a player that really inspired you growing up in hockey?
Well, my favorite team still is the Habs. Hurts, it's not quite the same after they traded PK there a couple years ago. He was my guy. But growing up, my favorite player was Saku Koivu. Those teams weren't great back then, but captain, heart and soul, cancer, that whole deal. I had his jersey, went and saw a couple games. So he was kind of my favorite player growing up. And it's just, you gotta respect the work ethic and stuff. So he was my guy.
Yeah, I loved Koivu too. Good captain. Great. He was fantastic. It's today's game. What do you think is going on with the Habs specifically? They've made the move with the new coach. Do you think they can kind of right the ship, and with this young core, but also, the pretty solid D that I have, I guess they're having some goaltender issues.
Yeah, I understand from the quotes and everything that, okay, they want to do what they're going to do with Claude Julien. I thought it was a little quick. It's a weird season. There's going to be ebbs and flows. I understand they spent some money, made some big moves, but if you look at some numbers, they're still a pretty good team. 5-on-5. Carey Price hasn't been the best recently, so I have faith in them that over the course of the season they'll finish in a nice spot. Are they going to challenge Toronto for the top spot? No, but they've got more depth than they have had in years, and essentially just with their contracts with Shea Weber and Carey Price, they have to hold out that they can continue to produce something, because going forward it's going to be tough with the cap. So
Coach even says you played hockey, I guess, growing up. What position did you play?
I was a center.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I guess I stopped growing there in grade 7, so I was like 5'8.5". So I was a decent size then, but then I got, everyone starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But like I could skate pretty decent, and I worked hard. So played some puck. Played for New Brunswick, AAA, and different things. It was fun.
Yeah. Out of the skills in hockey, was there one that translates well to wheelchair basketball for you?
It's just more like the mindset of a lot of people when they start playing wheelchair basketball, they're a little timid. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, guy in a wheelchair, you don't want to fall over. Like, it's just all kind of like, you don't want to hurt people and stuff. And I kind of came in with a reckless, I don't want to say ferocity, but I was falling and crashing, and it was just more second nature, to throw yourself into those kind of predicaments, I guess. So that's kind of, it allowed me to kind of jump into the game a little quicker. I've had to reel that back a little bit. You really need to think out there and see the floor and stuff. But I guess that was the biggest for me anyway.
Coach says that you're an extremely competitive with yourself. So is that the same thing? That's a mindset that you get also from all your years in playing sports?
Yeah, well, I guess it's something that my parents kind of talked to me about when I was growing up was, if you're going to do anything, you got to, sink your teeth into it. Don't just do it to do it. Mm-hmm. And, I spent a lot of time and a lot of sacrifices. So if I'm going to do this, I want to do it to the best I can. So I can be hard on myself, but I try not to bring other people down with me. But yeah, it's you're forever growing. So it's just part of the process.
You're also meticulous and motivated as a student of the game. What specifics in the game have you honed on more recently?
Well, aside from from Pat Anderson, we're not the biggest team in the world. So we've really been working on, me and a couple others, on stretching the floor a little more. So we're working on our shooting from distance, and then there are 2 other things. We're working on trying to maintain contact further out on defense, and we aren't the best picking team in the world. So we're trying to, pick and stick, not blow by our picks. So those are the kind of 3 things that I am working on, but we're all working on right now. And it's work in progress again. It's tough you feel like you're making progress and you can do scrimmages against your teammates and stuff, but it's tough when you can't quite measure yourself up against the rest of the world. So
You've said before that you want to be more of a well-rounded player. What skill of yours compared to the others do you think needs a little bit more work?
Yeah. I'm not the tallest guy. I'm not the fastest guy. I'm not the whatever, but I think I like to think I bring a lot of different aspects or elements of my game to the team. The 3-point shooting is something I'm working on every day right now, and your left-handed passing can never. It's always a battle. There's a lot of times we can't move side to side in our chair. where you can with your legs. So being able to use your left hand to throw hook passes and without going across your body to use your right hand is a big advantage. So that's something I'm trying to get a little better at.
This is maybe a little more personal question for me. I've been dealing with type 2 diabetes, and more recently, especially with my cardio and weight loss, the winter has been tough on me, so I've lost more sensitivity in my feet and hands. Personal question for myself is, how do you keep up with your cardio? Like for myself, I probably won't be able to run anymore, and that was my primary focus and way to lose weight and keep my sugar levels down was running and walking. What are other ways you can do to do cardio and burn some calories?
I have a brother who's got type 1. Mm-hmm. But I know not from a cardio aspect, but from just a weight or physical physique. The big thing is just kind of what we intake, what we drink, what we eat plays a big role. Mm-hmm. And then even just being stuck, like I'm not sure. So we've got some issues with feeling or whatever, but like I purchased a skipping rope recently. So even with my foot drop, I can still push down. I just can't move my foot up. So mm-hmm. that has allowed me to get my heart rate pumping. And then I like to do little short circuits where I'm like doing push-ups, squats, maybe some lunges, anything I've got around, and I just do them really quick. No breaks in between. Rep them off as fast as I can. And you do like 3, 4, 5 sets of those in a row, and your heart will get going too. So it's just what you put into it, what you'll get out of it. You say you like to run before. We all have different things that get taken away or change because of pandemics or health or whatever. It's just modifying and doing some research online and giving things a try and see what works best for you. So,
explain to listeners and to myself what exactly is like the foot drop.
Yeah, so 2012 I hurt my knee, and when I hurt my knee, I tore a bunch of things in it, but when it tore, I guess, it stretched one of my nerves that runs down into my foot. Mm-hmm. So when my brain tells my foot to lift off the ground, to clear the ground when I'm walking, mm-hmm. it doesn't. So my toes are they droop down.
Okay.
My foot could still move side to side. So I had a surgery to move some of those ligaments and tendons or whatever from the sides of my feet or to my foot on top. So when my brain told my foot to move to the side, it really comes up now. So I get like 50% clearance mm-hmm. Compared to like a normal able body, but I can't move my foot side to side at all now. So if you see me walking on the street, I look pretty able body. But if I take off my shoe, my big toe, I still can't lift up. So I stub that all the time. But yeah, it's just, I can't move my foot side to side anymore. And that's from the surgery, but the nerve is dead. So it can't activate anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know with all the training going on, I want to touch base with how you've been reaching out to teammates and using maybe Zoom to communicate more, to get the flow of, being more of a team unit. How has that worked? Have you just been on Zoom more, or is just more of the 3-on-3 with the training?
Yeah, so kind of during the summer, when we were all kind of spread out all over the place, we would set up a team Zoom just like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, and the guys would just kind of hang out. Who could jump on? So most guys would jump on. We'd talk for an hour, just shoot the whatever and catch up. And if people wanted to stay longer, great. If not, if you only have 5 minutes to spare, cool. So that was something we kind of did over the summer. And then now like I said, most guys are in and out of Toronto training right now, so see most of them. But the guys that are away, we have bi-weekly sessions over Zoom with our mental strength teacher guy. And so we catch up there, and we stay on after he's left. And but yeah, we've got a group chat at firing all the time, and it's just the way it is these days. So.
Yep. All right, Colin, thank you for joining me. You can reach him on Instagram at CHiggins146. Colin, I want you to wish all you and the entire team best of luck at Tokyo.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
I want to thank all our guests today. First off, Colin Higgins. It was a great chat we had on how he trains for what hopes to be the Tokyo Olympics this summer and everything wheelchair basketball, how that works. Thank you, Colin. That was a great chat we had, and you really helped me with some things that I've been going through as well. Also, Craig Merz and Mitch Stacy, thank you to you gentlemen. It was great also discussing with Craig who we think is going to make the NHL playoffs, and of course the amazing career of Andrew Shaw, and with both of them, including Mitch. All things Blue Jackets. The future still looks bright. They've got some good things there. We'll see how it starts off this summer, though. Remember, if you've enjoyed anything you've heard in this episode, or don't, please tweet at me or even our guests. You can follow me on Twitter at Russia98 or the entire team at Jablam Sports. If you want, you can also contact us on our website. You can use the hashtag at Jablam Sports, Jablam Sports, that's JABLAM, and our website is jablamsports.com/contact for our contact page there. Please check out our website. Go to jablamsports.com to see all our podcasts and even game notes for each episode, including this one. And you'll get our guests' info and links to things we mentioned on this show. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify. And of course, click on the 3 dots in your podcasting app and share this episode with 3 friends you know. Please and thank you. Also, follow us on our Facebook group, Jablam Sports. Check us out, folks. Thank you, everyone. And to every one of our listeners, I'm giving you a virtual hug. Stay healthy, listen, be yourself, and stay strong.